The laptop screen flickered in the darkness of the kitchen, casting blue shadows across Anton Roseev's face. 3:47 a.m. He'd been scrolling for 6 hours straight, and every job posting looked the same. Shit pay, shit conditions, shit future. His eyes burned, his neck ached. The half-empty bottle of cheap beer had gone warm beside him. He was about to slam the laptop shut when he saw it. Electrical installer, shift work, Krasnoyarsk region, high salary. Anton's finger hovered over the touchpad. High salary. Those two words did something to his chest, made his heart kick like it hadn't in months. He clicked. Oil well construction, remote location, harsh conditions, trailer camp. His exact qualifications needed. He grabbed his phone before he could think better of it. The number rang twice. Yeah, a man's voice, rough, no nonsense. About the electrician position, you got experience? Technical school, 5th grade certification, just finished Army service, strategic rocket forces. A pause. Anton could hear something in the background, machinery, maybe wind. You understand what harsh conditions means? Yes. Can you be in Krasnoyarsk in 3 days? Anton's mouth went dry. Yes. Good. Check your email in 10 minutes. Tickets already purchased. The line went dead. Anton sat there, phone still pressed to his ear, his pulse hammering in his temples. What the fuck had he just done? 3 days. Jesus Christ. 3 days. His mother found him packing at dawn, shoving thermal underwear and tools into his father's old military backpack. She didn't cry, not then. She just stood in the doorway in her bathrobe, watching him with those eyes that had watched his father leave for work trips that sometimes lasted months, that had watched Anton leave for the army, that particular expression of women who know how to let men go even when it tears them apart. Antoshka, she said quietly. He stopped, a roll of electrical tape in his hand. She crossed the small room and pressed something into his palm. A small Orthodox icon, St. Nicholas, the metal worn smooth from decades of worried fingers. Her fingers, his grandmother's before that. Mama, I don't... Take it. Her voice was firm. Just take it. The train station was chaos. Vladimir's central station at rush hour. People everywhere. Announcements crackling over blown speakers, the smell of diesel and cigarette smoke, and boiled sausages from the platform kiosks. Anton pushed through the crowd, his backpack heavy on his shoulders, ticket clutched in his sweating hand. The Krasnoyarsk train was already boarding. He found his Platzkart carriage, climbed the narrow steps, and squeezed down the aisle past babushkas with enormous bags and tired men in work clothes. His bunk was middle tier, number 37. He threw his pack up, climbed after it, and pressed his face to the grimy window just as the train lurched into motion. His mother was there on the platform, smaller than he remembered, one hand raised. He raised his hand back. Then the station slid away, and she was gone. The first day passed in a blur of motion and monotony. The train's rhythm, clack, 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 worked its way into his bones. Anton tried to sleep but couldn't, tried to read but the words wouldn't stick. He just stared out the window as European Russia gave way to the Urals, as forests thickened and towns grew smaller and farther apart, as civilization started to thin like old paint. They crossed into Siberia somewhere in the night. Anton knew because the temperature in the carriage dropped and the darkness outside became absolute. No lights, no towns, nothing but black forest pressing against the windows like it wanted in. He was in the vestibule having a smoke when the old man appeared. Anton hadn't heard him coming, hadn't heard the door open. The old man was just suddenly there, already rolling a cigarette, staring out the vestibule window at the passing darkness. He was maybe 70, maybe older, hard to tell. His face looked carved from wood, all sharp angles and deep lines. His eyes were pale, almost colorless in the dim vestibule light, and they didn't blink as much as normal eyes should. "Nasty habit," the old man said, without looking at Anton. Anton didn't answer, just took another drag. "Where you headed?" The old man's fingers moved with practiced ease, sealing his cigarette. "Krasnoyarsk, then north." "North where?" Anton hesitated. Something about the old man's stillness made him uneasy. "Worksite, near Belyar." The old man's hand stopped moving. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, he was absolutely motionless. Then he lit his cigarette, took a deep drag, and finally turned to look at Anton directly. "Belyar," he repeated. His voice had changed, gone flat. "The new oil field." "Yeah, you shouldn't go there." Anton laughed, but it came out wrong, too sharp. "Bit late for that. I'm already on the train." The old man didn't smile. "I'm serious, boy. That place—" He stopped, seemed to reconsider his words. "I worked those forests for 40 years, ranger. I know every trail, every ridge, every bog, and I know the places we don't go. Belyar is one of them." "Why?" Anton tried to sound skeptical, but his voice betrayed him. The old man leaned closer. His breath smelled like tobacco and something else, something organic and wild. "Because it belongs to someone else, always has. The old people, the real old people, they have stories about what lives in those deep woods, about what happens to men who disturb the old places." "Bears?" Anton's attempt at dismissiveness fell flat. "Bears." The old man's pale eyes held his. "Yes, bears and wolves and other things. Things that walk on 4 legs sometimes and 2 legs other times. Things that remember when humans knew better than to take what isn't theirs." Anton's mouth had gone dry. That's just superstition. "Old wives' tales." "Maybe." The old man straightened up, took another drag. "But I've seen tracks near Belyar. Tracks that started as bear and ended as man. I've heard sounds in those woods that don't come from any animal in the books. And I've watched 3 expeditions go into that area in the last 30 years. He paused. "Only one came back, and the men who came back weren't right. Wouldn't talk about what they saw. 2 of them killed themselves within a year." The vestibule suddenly felt very cold. The train rocked and clattered through the darkness, and beyond the window, the forest was an impenetrable wall of black. "Why are you telling me this?" Anton's voice came out smaller than he intended. The old man studied him for a long moment, those strange, pale eyes reading something in Anton's face. Then he shook his head slowly. "Because you have decent eyes, boy. You're not a bad person. And bad people I'd let walk into that forest without a word." He flicked his cigarette butt out through the cracked window. "But you listen to me. When you get there, you pay attention. You watch. You listen. Animals acting strange, sounds that don't fit, tracks that look wrong. You notice these things. And if things start to go bad, if people start disappearing or dying, you run. You don't ask questions. You don't try to be brave. You just fucking run, and you don't stop until you're out of those woods." He turned to go back into the carriage, then paused with his hand on the door. "And boy, don't go into the forest alone, ever, not even to piss. The masters don't take one at a time. They take the ones who separate from the pack. Then he was gone, leaving Anton alone in the vestibule with the smell of tobacco smoke and the infinite Siberian darkness pressing against the windows. Anton stood there for a long time, his cigarette burning down to the filter between his numb fingers. And for the first time since he'd made that phone call, he felt real fear. Not nervousness, not anxiety. Cold, animal fear that lived somewhere below thought, in the old part of the brain that remembered when humans were prey. The train carried him east through the night, and with every kilometer, the forest grew darker and deeper, and the distance between lights grew longer, and Anton couldn't shake the feeling that he was being carried towards something vast and patient and hungry, something that had been waiting in those northern woods for a very long time, something that had been waiting for him. Krasnoyarsk was a blur. Anton remembered a cramped office, a woman with dead eyes sliding papers across a desk, the scratch of pen on carbon copy forms. He remembered the smell, cigarettes and industrial cleaner, and something underneath, something like fear that had soaked into the walls over years. The woman never looked at him directly, just pointed where to sign. Medicals on page 3, liability waiver on 5, next of kin on 7. Next of kin. Anton's pen had hesitated there. He wrote his mother's name in careful block letters, and for just a moment, he let himself imagine her getting the call. "We regret to inform you." He shook it off. 14 hours later, he was in the Mi-8. The helicopter's interior smelled like hydraulic fluid and old sweat. Anton was crammed in with 5 other workers, 2 Uzbeks who didn't speak Russian, a scarred Buryat man who might have been 40 or 70, and Sanich, the big paratrooper who wouldn't shut the fuck up, even though the engine noise made conversation nearly impossible. Sanich just kept shouting fragments of sentences, grinning like this was all a grand adventure. "Buddy of mine worked Sakhalin, said the mosquitoes were big as..." Anton stopped listening. He pressed his forehead against the small, circular window and watched civilization end. It didn't happen gradually. One moment there were roads, power lines, the geometric evidence of human activity. Then, like someone had drawn a line, it all stopped. Just forest, unbroken, eternal. A green mass that looked solid enough to walk on, stretching away in every direction until it blurred into haze at the horizon. 30 minutes in, Anton realized he hadn't seen a single human structure. No ranger stations, no logging roads, nothing. 45 minutes in, he understood something that made his stomach clench. If the helicopter went down, they would die. Not might die. Would. You could wander in that ocean of trees until you dropped, and nobody would ever find you. Your bones would sink into the moss, and that would be the end of your story. The Buryat man was watching him. When their eyes met, the old man smiled. Not friendly, just acknowledgement. He'd seen Anton figure it out. The descent began without warning, the helicopter dropping into a tight spiral that made Anton's inner ear scream. Through the window, he caught glimpses of the camp, a wound in the forest, raw and ugly, a cluster of blue shipping containers surrounded by stumps and mud, and the skeletal frame of a drilling rig. They hit hard. The door slid open and Volkov was there, already shouting assignments, his weathered face all business. He looked like every site supervisor Anton had ever seen. Compact, hard, prematurely aged by seasons in places that didn't give a shit whether you lived or died. "Rosiv, Unit 4, bottom bunk just opened up. Settle in. Dinner at 7. Work starts at 6 tomorrow." Volkov's handshake was brief and crushing. "Don't go into the trees alone. We lost a driller last season. Wandered off to take a piss, never came back. Probably fell in a bog." The way he said "probably" suggested he didn't believe it. Unit 4 was exactly what Anton expected. A metal box barely modified for human habitation. 4 bunks, 1 stove. A smell composed of diesel, body odor, and desperation. Sanich had already claimed the bunk across from Anton and was spreading his shit everywhere like a dog marking territory. "Home sweet fucking home," Sanich bellowed, laughing at his own joke. The small man in the corner didn't laugh. Kaidar was maybe 50, built like wire, with Tatar features and hands that never stopped moving. He was arranging something on his bunk, small objects, bits of carved wood, a strip of leather with symbols scratched into it. When he noticed Anton watching, he covered them quickly with a blanket. His eyes were the color of amber, and they looked at Anton with an intensity that made him want to turn away. "Kaidar doesn't do Russian so good," Sanich offered. "Talks to himself though, and he's got some weird ideas about..." "Is fine." Kaidar's voice was rough, accented. "I speak enough. You listen, maybe you live." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Sanich's grin faltered for just a moment before reasserting itself. Anton took the bottom bunk that had just opened up and tried not to think about why. The first 3 days were just work. Brutal, monotonous work that filled the hours and emptied the mind. Anton ran cable through mud that tried to keep his boots, installed junction boxes on equipment that was already failing, and learned the particular rhythm of a shift camp. Wake, eat, work, eat, work, eat, sleep, repeat. The other electricians were solid workers who'd learned not to waste energy on conversation. They did their jobs with the efficiency of men who understood that fucking up in a place like this could mean freezing to death before help arrived. At night, Anton would lie in his bunk and listen to the camp settle. The generator's constant growl, men coughing, snoring, arguing in low voices, the wind moving through the trees beyond the walls. Just the wind. That's what he told himself. On the 4th night, he woke to scratching. It was faint, rhythmic, coming from the wall directly behind his head. Scratch, scratch, pause. Scratch, scratch, pause. Like something testing the metal, learning its properties. Anton lay perfectly still, his heart rate climbing. In the bunk below, Sanich's breathing had changed. Too controlled, too measured. He was awake too. The scratching continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped. Anton waited in the darkness, listening to his own pulse hammer in his ears, and eventually sleep took him back. Morning came with the air horn's brutal blast. Nobody mentioned the scratching. But at breakfast, Anton noticed men at other tables having quiet conversations, glancing toward the walls. "Probably a fox," someone said, too loud. "Yeah," someone else agreed, not meeting anyone's eyes. "Fox." On the 7th night, Anton was drifting off when he heard Kaidar whisper from across the container. "Is not fox." Anton's eyes snapped open. In the faint light from the stove's vents, he could see Kaidar sitting upright, staring at the wall. "What?" "Is not fox. Fox doesn't come every night. Fox doesn't walk all around, testing." Kaidar's amber eyes found Anton in the darkness. "Something else, something that thinks." "Bullshit," Sanich muttered, but his voice had no conviction. "You hear the breathing?" Kaidar asked. "When it stops scratching, you hear it breathe?" Anton wanted to say no, but he had heard it, a low, wet sound, too deep for a fox, too deliberate. "What is it?" Anton heard himself ask. Kaidar was quiet for a long time. Then, "Old thing, older than us. This is their place. We shouldn't be here." "Jesus Christ," Sonic sat up. "Can we not do the spooky fairy tale shit? I need to fucking sleep." But Anton noticed Sonic didn't lie back down. None of them did. They sat in the darkness, listening, until gray dawn light began seeping through the cracks around the door. The scratching came every night after that, but it changed, got bolder. On the 9th night, it moved, started at Anton's wall, worked its way around to the door, paused there for an eternity, then continued around all 4 walls before disappearing into the forest silence. Something was learning the shape of their shelter. On the 12th night, they heard it at other containers too. Men came to breakfast, hollow-eyed and angry, that particular anger that comes from sustained fear with no outlet. Volkov called a meeting, tried to restore order with logic and authority, but Anton could see the cracks forming. The camp was fracturing. "It's an animal," Volkov insisted, but his hand shook as he lit his cigarette. "A bear, probably. Curious." "It'll move on." "Bears don't move like that," someone shouted. "Bears don't go container to container like they're taking fucking inventory." The meeting dissolved into chaos. That afternoon, Anton was running cable near the perimeter when he found the tracks. They were in a patch of soft mud near the tree line. Massive paw prints, too large for any bear he'd ever heard of. But it wasn't the size that made his breath catch. It was the pattern. The tracks approached from the forest, clear bear prints. Then, about 3 meters from the camp perimeter, they changed. The paw prints became elongated, the claw marks deeper, more widely spaced. Like whatever made them had shifted its weight, changed its gait, like it had stood up. Anton crouched there, staring at those impossible tracks, and felt something fundamental shift in his understanding of the world. The rational part of his brain screamed that he was misinterpreting, that there had to be an explanation. But his hindbrain, the old animal part that had kept humans alive for millennia, was screaming something else entirely. Predator, run. He marked the location and told Volkov. The supervisor came out with 2 other men, studied the tracks in silence, then ordered the area marked as off-limits. "Unstable ground," he said. "Don't want anyone breaking an ankle." But Anton saw the way Volkov's jaw clenched, the way he couldn't quite look at where the tracks changed. On the 15th night, Anton was on generator duty with Mikhailich, an older Ukrainian who'd been working shift camps since the Soviet days. Mikhailich had steady hands and a face like worn leather and a habit of humming Orthodox hymns under his breath while he worked. The generator shed was separated from the main camp by maybe 30 meters, close enough to hear if something went wrong, far enough that the noise didn't keep everyone awake. Anton and Mikhailich sat on plastic crates, drinking thermos coffee, letting the machine's roar fill the silence. Around 1 a.m., Mikhailich stood up, stretched. "Going to check the fuel gauge, back in 2 minutes." He stepped out into the darkness beyond the shed's single floodlight. Anton watched him go, silhouetted against the lesser darkness, flashlight beam bobbing. Then Mikhailich stopped. Just stopped. Maybe 20 meters out, his flashlight pointed at something in the trees. "Mikhailich?" Anton called. No response. The older man stood perfectly still, his flashlight beam steady on whatever he was seeing. Anton felt ice water dump into his stomach. "Mikhailich!" The flashlight dropped. Anton heard it hit the ground, saw the beam angle up crazily at the sky. But Mikhailich didn't move. He stood there, arms at his sides, facing the trees. Anton grabbed the shed's big spotlight, thumbed it on, and swung it toward Mikhailich. The beam caught him full on, and Anton saw his face. Mikhailich was staring at something in the trees, his face a mask of such absolute, primal terror that it didn't look human anymore. His mouth was open in a scream that wasn't coming out. His eyes bulged, tendons standing out in his neck like cables. Then he fell, just collapsed like someone had cut his strings. Anton ran. He didn't think about it, didn't plan it. His body just moved. He covered the 20 meters in seconds, dropped to his knees beside Mikhailich, grabbed his shoulders. "Mikhailich! Mikhailich! Talk to me!" The older man's eyes were open, fixed on something over Anton's shoulder. His mouth worked soundlessly. And then Anton felt it, the breath on the back of his neck. Slow, deliberate. The wet sound of something large breathing inches from his head. Anton's entire body locked. Every muscle turned to stone. He couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even turn his head. He just knelt there, Mikhailich dying under his hands, while something stood behind him in the darkness and breathed. The breath smelled like earth and blood and something ancient. It lasted forever. It lasted 3 seconds. Then the presence withdrew, and Anton heard, felt, something massive moving away into the forest. Not running, walking, taking its time. When he finally managed to turn around, there was nothing there, just darkness and trees. Mikhailich died 40 seconds later. Heart attack, the camp medic would say later. No wounds, no obvious cause, just catastrophic cardiac failure, probably brought on by stress and his age and the harsh conditions. But Anton had seen his face, had seen what terror could do to a human being when it met something its mind couldn't process. And he had felt that breath on his neck. That night, lying in his bunk while the camp buzzed with news of Mikhailich's death, Anton's hand went to his pocket and found the icon his mother had given him. St. Nicholas, protector of travelers. The metal was warm from his body heat. In the darkness, Kaider whispered, "Now you know, now you believe." Anton didn't answer. He clutched the icon and stared at the ceiling and listened to the forest outside. And for the first time since he'd gotten on that train, he understood the old man's warning. This place belonged to something else, and it wanted them gone. They sent Mikhailich's body out on the next supply helicopter, zipped in a black rubber bag that had equipment stenciled on the side, because the camp didn't have actual body bags. Nobody mentioned that. Nobody mentioned a lot of things. Volkov gave a speech about safety and staying in groups and how these things happen in remote locations, stress on the heart, the cold, occupational hazards. His voice was steady, but his eyes kept drifting toward the tree line, like he was reading from a script and simultaneously watching for something to emerge from the forest and call him a liar. Work continued. What else could it do? The drilling schedule didn't care about dead workers. The oil didn't care. And nobody was paying them to sit around and process trauma. But the camp had changed. Men moved differently now, quicker, tighter, always checking sightlines. Conversations died when footsteps approached. The mess hall that used to buzz with crude jokes and card games had gone quiet, just the sound of forks on metal trays and the occasional muttered prayer. Even Sanich had stopped his constant joking. He still smiled, but it was wrong now, stretched too tight, a mask he couldn't quite get to fit. Anton caught him in the bathroom on the second day after, splashing water on his face with shaking hands. When Sanich looked up and saw Anton in the mirror, something cracked in his expression. "I heard it, you know," Sanich said quietly. When Mikhailich, I heard what he was looking at. What do you mean, heard? It was, Sanich struggled for words. It was making a sound, not growling, not anything I've heard before. It was like it was talking to him, like it was explaining something. The big man's hands gripped the edge of the sink until his knuckles went white. My grandmother used to tell me stories about Leshy, forest spirits, said they could speak, but in a language that would break your mind if you really understood it. He laughed, wet and desperate. Stupid old woman superstitions, right? Except I heard it, Anton. I fucking heard it. Anton wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he'd imagined it, but he'd felt that breath on his neck, had seen those eyes that held light instead of reflecting it. So instead, he put a hand on Sanich's shoulder and felt the bigger man shaking. We're going to be okay, Anton lied. Yeah, Sanich lied back. Yeah, we are. Neither of them believed it. On the third night after Mikhailich's death, Anton was working late on a junction box that had been shorting out. The floodlights created a circle of harsh white light, and beyond it, the darkness was absolute. His partner, a quiet Kazakh named Murat, had muttered something about needing to piss 20 minutes ago and hadn't come back. Anton was elbow deep in wiring when the smell hit him. It wasn't the smell of an animal. Animals smell like musk, like fur and piss and the wild. This was different. Organic rot mixed with something mineral, like wet stones and decomposing leaves, and underneath it all, something that reminded him of the smell in his grandmother's root cellar, that deep earth scent that spoke of things growing in the dark. The smell was coming from behind him. He straightened slowly, wire cutters still in his hand, like that would matter, and turned around. The floodlights created a sharp boundary between light and shadow, and just beyond that boundary, something stood, not hiding, not lurking, just standing there, patient and still, watching him work. Anton's throat closed. He couldn't see details. The darkness was too complete, but he could see the shape. It was wrong. The proportions were wrong. The silhouette suggested something that stood upright but wasn't built to, like watching a dog walk on its hind legs, but worse, more fundamentally disturbing. I can see you, Anton said, and his voice came out steady somehow, though his hands were shaking so badly the wire cutters rattled. I know you're there. The shape tilted its head. The movement was smooth, too smooth, like a camera on a gimbal, curious, considering. Then the floodlight flickered, just for a fraction of a second, and in that moment of dimming, the thing moved. Not toward him. It shifted maybe 6 feet to the left, but Anton hadn't seen it move. One moment it was there, the next it was there, and his brain couldn't fill in the gap between. The light steadied. The shape was closer now, just barely still in shadow. And then Anton saw its eyes. They didn't reflect the light like animal eyes should. Instead, they seemed to generate their own luminescence, a deep amber color that pulsed very faintly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat made visible. And they didn't just look at him, they looked into him with an intelligence that was undeniable and utterly alien. The thing made a sound, low, subharmonic. It bypassed Anton's ears and resonated directly in his chest cavity. It felt like being studied, like something was reaching inside him and cataloging what it found. Threat assessment, prey evaluation, and then, worse than anything, it spoke. Not in Russian, not in any language. But Anton understood it anyway, the meaning arriving in his brain without passing through the normal channels of comprehension. A single concept, delivered with absolute clarity. Not yet. The eyes blinked, horizontal lids that closed from the sides like a reptile, and then it was gone. Not running, not walking away, just gone, like it had stepped sideways into a dimension Anton couldn't perceive. He stood there with his heart trying to hammer through his ribs, his mouth tasting like copper and fear, and realized he'd pissed himself. The warm wetness spreading down his leg was almost a relief. Concrete, physical, real. Proof that his body was still following known rules, even if the universe had just revealed it contained things that didn't. He packed up his tools with hands that wouldn't stop shaking and walked back to the containers, fighting every urge to run because some deep instinct told him that running would change their relationship, would transform him from not yet into prey. Behind him, he heard that sound again, that subharmonic rumble that wasn't quite vocalization, and underneath it, something that might have been satisfaction. The scratching that night was different, purposeful. It started at Anton's wall, moved to the door, paused there. Then, and this turned his blood to ice, it went high. The sound of claws scraping metal moved up the container wall, across the roof, down the other side. Whatever was out there had climbed onto their shelter. In the darkness, Anton heard Kaidar's breathing turn rapid and shallow. Heard Sanich whisper, "Fuck, fuck, fuck," like a mantra. Above them, the roof creaked under distributed weight. Not one point of pressure, but several, like something was standing up there on 4 legs, or maybe 2 legs and 2 arms, weight shifting as it tested its balance. The weight moved from one end of the container to the other, deliberate. Anton could track its movement by the sound, by the way different roof panels flexed. It reached the far end, paused, then moved back, pacing, like a guard on patrol. Then it stopped, right above Anton's bunk. He stared up at the ceiling, at the spot directly above his face, and the metal there creaked softly. Continuous pressure. Whatever was up there was standing still now, and Anton had the horrifying certainty that it was looking down, that somehow it could see through the metal and was studying him specifically. His hand found the icon in his pocket, gripped it so hard the edges cut into his palm. In his mind, unbidden, came his mother's voice. "Saint Nicholas, protect those who travel far from home." The pressure above him increased. The roof panel buckled slightly, creating a shallow depression. Anton watched it deform, centimeter by centimeter, and understood that whatever was up there could come through if it wanted to, could peel back the roof like a sardine can and reach in and take him. But it didn't. The pressure held for exactly 30 seconds. Anton counted, desperate for something concrete to hold on to, then released. The weight moved across the roof, and he heard it drop to the ground with a heavy thud that shook the container. Then, in the sudden silence, he heard it laugh. Not a human laugh, not an animal sound, something in between, a vocalization that carried mockery and intelligence and promise. It said, clearer than words, "I could have. I chose not to. This time." The sound of it walking away was almost worse. 4 feet, claws clicking on stone, fading into the forest with the casual confidence of something that knew it owned this place and everything in it. Nobody slept. When the morning horn finally sounded, all 3 of them were sitting on their bunks, fully dressed, staring at nothing. At breakfast, Anton learned that every container had experienced the same thing. Something, or multiple somethings, had moved through the camp, climbed onto each shelter, tested each roof. Systematic, methodical. Container 6 had a dent in their roof that matched the one above Anton's bunk. Container 2's was deeper. The metal actually split in two places. Someone said it looked like a hand. Someone else told them to shut the fuck up. Volkov tried to maintain control, but he'd lost them. A group of Buroviks, drillers, the toughest men in camp, armed themselves with axes and pipes and announced they were going hunting. Volkov tried to stop them, but the lead driller, a Chechen named Ruslan, who claimed he'd fought in 2 wars and had the scars to prove it, just looked at the supervisor with dead eyes. "We're already dead if we stay here," Ruslan said quietly. "At least this way we choose how." 8 men marched into the forest like they were going to war. Anton watched them go and felt something twist in his chest. Not hope exactly, but a desperate wish that maybe they'd come back with a body, with proof, with something that could be killed. They came back in 47 minutes, 7 of them. Ruslan was gone. The story came out in fragments. They'd moved in a standard hunting formation, weapons ready, senses sharp. They'd been maybe 300 meters in when Ruslan, on point, had suddenly stopped and raised his fist, the military signal for halt. He was looking at something, one of them said, his voice hollow, standing absolutely still, just looking into the trees ahead. We came up behind him, asked what he saw. He didn't answer, just kept staring. Then the trees moved, another added. Not like wind, like they were stepping aside, making a path. Ruslan said something. I didn't catch it. Then he just walked forward, into the path. We called after him, but he didn't stop, didn't look back. Just walked into the forest like he was in a trance. They'd followed. Of course they'd followed, but the path closed behind Ruslan, the trees seeming to shift back into place. And when they fought their way through, they found themselves in a small clearing with Ruslan's axe lying in the center, partially embedded in a stump. The handle had marks on it, the youngest one, a kid from Perm who couldn't have been more than 19, whispered. Grip marks, but they weren't from hands. The fingers were too long, and there were too many of them, and he stopped talking and started making a sound, a high keening that built until the medic slapped him hard across the face. The kid shut up, but his eyes stayed wide and empty. They hadn't found Ruslan, hadn't found blood, tracks, signs of struggle, just the axe marked by something with too many fingers. We need to leave, someone said at the emergency meeting Volkov called. We need to walk out now. Today. 200 kilometers through forest, Volkov snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. In October, half of you would freeze to death before you made it 50 clicks. Better than staying here waiting to be picked off. The meeting devolved into shouting. Anton sat in the back and watched the last structures of authority crumble. These were men who'd worked in the harshest environments on Earth. Arctic winters, desert summers, deep ocean rigs. They didn't scare easily, but they were scared now, and fear was eating through the camp's organizational structure like acid. That night, Anton volunteered for inventory duty, anything that meant being around other people, in a container with walls and a door that locked. He ended up with 2 Uzbeks who didn't speak Russian, and a geologist named Petrov, who chain-smoked and jumped at every sound. They were counting boxes of rivets that nobody gave a shit about when Anton's hands stopped working properly. He stared down at them, watched them shake, and realized he could taste blood. He'd been biting the inside of his cheek without realizing it. "You okay?" Petrov asked. Anton looked at him. The geologist was maybe 35, but looked 50, skin gray, eyes sunken. They were all aging in real time out here. "No," Anton said honestly. "You," Petrov laughed, harsh and bitter. "I haven't been okay since day 3. I keep thinking about my daughter. She's 7. I was supposed to be home for her birthday." His hands shook as he lit another cigarette. "Now I keep thinking she's going to grow up wondering what happened to her dad. If they even find enough of me to send home." "Don't." The lights went out. Not flickered. Went out. All at once, every light in camp dying simultaneously, even though they could still hear the generators running. In the absolute darkness, Anton heard Petrov's cigarette hit the floor. Heard the Uzbek start praying in frantic whispers. Heard his own heart hammering so loud it seemed to fill the container. Then, from outside, the air raid siren began to wail. But it was wrong. The sound warbled, modulated, like something was interfering with it, bending it into a pattern that was almost language, almost music. It rose and fell in a rhythm that felt intentional, and underneath it, Anton could hear harmonics that shouldn't exist, overtones that made his teeth ache and his inner ear scream. And then the howling started. Not one voice, not a dozen, a chorus. It came from every direction at once, hundreds of voices rising in a harmony that bypassed Anton's ears entirely and resonated directly in his bones. The sound had layers, some voices deep and grinding like stone on stone, others high and sharp like wind through ice, and underneath them all a rhythm that might have been words in a language older than human speech. The howling built and built, creating interference patterns that made Anton's vision swim even in the darkness. He clapped his hands over his ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside him now, vibrating in his skull, and for a terrible moment he understood, really understood, what Sonic had meant about sounds that would break your mind. This wasn't a threat. This was an announcement, a declaration of ownership. This is our place. You are here because we allow it, and we are done allowing it. The lights came back with a buzz and a flicker. The siren cut off mid-wail. The howling stopped so abruptly that the silence felt like a physical blow. In that silence, they heard the screaming start. It came from the far end of camp, from Container 7. Not one voice, multiple voices, overlapping, men screaming in terror and agony, and something worse, something that sounded like incomprehension, like their minds were breaking under the weight of what they were seeing. Anton was running before he realized he'd moved, Petrov behind him, the Uzbeks following, all of them sprinting toward the sound, because what else could they do? Stand and listen. Container 7's door wasn't just open. It had been removed, torn completely off its hinges and tossed aside like cardboard. And inside, Anton's brain stuttered, trying to process the scene, trying to make it make sense. The 4 men who'd been sleeping inside were gone. All their gear was still there. Boots lined up by bunks, packs hanging from hooks, playing cards scattered on the table mid-game. But the men were just gone, and the container looked like something massive had reached inside and rummaged through it with casual curiosity. 3 of the bunks had been peeled apart, the metal frames bent and twisted. The walls bore long parallel gouges, groups of 4, 5, 6 marks that ran from ceiling to floor. And there was blood. Not a lot, just smears on the walls, handprints where someone had grabbed for purchase while being pulled toward the door. But in the center of the floor, pressed into the metal with such force that it had deformed the steel, was a print. Not a track. A print, stamped down like a seal in wax. It was roughly hand-shaped, but wrong. Too large, easily twice the size of Anton's handprint. And the fingers, there were 6 of them, arranged in a radial pattern around a central palm, each tipped with what looked like a claw mark. The metal around it had buckled from the pressure, creating a shallow bowl. Anton knelt beside it, extended his own hand for comparison. The thing that made this print could have palmed his head like a basketball. "Signature," Petrov whispered beside him. His cigarette had gone out, but he was still holding it, forgotten. It left a fucking signature. The camp descended into chaos. Men poured out of containers, some armed with tools and pipes, some just running in blind panic. Volkov was screaming into the satellite phone, demanding immediate evacuation, his composure finally shattered. Anton could hear the voice on the other end, tinny and bureaucratic, even through Volkov's shouting. "Weather window closed. Next available flight in 4 days. Maintain order. Follow emergency protocols." "Emergency protocols?" Volkov's voice cracked. "4 men are gone. Something tore through solid steel like paper. Send the fucking helicopter." But the voice on the phone was unmoved. Regulations, liability, insurance protocols, 4 days. Someone threw a wrench at Volkov. It hit the container wall beside his head with a clang, and the supervisor dropped the phone and ran for his quarters. That was it. The moment the camp died. The last thread of authority snapped, and suddenly there was no organization, no structure, just 30 terrified men in a clearing in the forest with something circling them in the darkness. Some men barricaded themselves in containers. Some gathered in armed groups, brandishing improvised weapons at the forest. Some just sat on the ground and wept. Anton saw one of the cooks calmly writing a letter, his hand steady, his face peaceful. A man who'd accepted his death and was just trying to leave something behind. Anton found himself back at Container 4 with Sanich and Kaidar. The big paratrooper was piling tools against the door. Axes, pipes, anything heavy. His movements jerky and uncoordinated. The shakes he'd been suppressing finally taking over. Kaidar sat on his bunk, arranging his talismans in patterns Anton didn't recognize, muttering prayers in Tatar. His amber eyes were calm, almost serene. "We need to leave," Anton said. "We need to walk out. Start now. Walk through the night. Just get as far from here as possible." 200 kilometers, Kaidar said, without looking up. "Through their forest. We'd be dead by dawn." "We're dead if we stay." "Maybe." Kaidar's eyes finally met his. "But out there, we die alone in darkness and nobody ever finds us. Here, maybe helicopter comes. Maybe we last 4 days. Maybe." "Fuck maybe," Sanich slammed a wrench against the wall. "Fuck maybe, and fuck this place, and fuck..." He stopped, swallowed hard. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, almost childlike. "I don't want to die out here, Anton. I don't want to die where my mother can't bury me." Anton crossed the container and gripped Sanich's shoulder. The big man was shaking like a leaf. "We're going to be okay," Anton said, and this time he tried to mean it. 4 days. We can last 4 days." Sanich nodded, not believing it, but needing to hear it. They lasted until midnight. The attack, when it came, was nothing like Anton had imagined. He'd pictured chaos, violence, monsters bursting through walls. But it was methodical, coordinated, professional. It started with both generators cutting out simultaneously, not sputtering, not failing, just stopping like someone had flipped a switch. The camp dropped into absolute darkness, and in that darkness, Anton heard the perimeter being breached. Not broken, breached. The sound was organized, multiple points of entry, moving in coordinated patterns. He could track them by sound alone, something heavy moving past Container 2, something else flanking around the mess hall, a third presence circling toward the equipment shed. They were hunting, pack tactics, driving prey, cutting off escape routes. The screaming started almost immediately, coming from different points around the camp. Men who'd been standing guard, who'd armed themselves with axes and pipes, who'd thought they could fight. The screams cut off quickly, one by one, like lights being extinguished. And under it all, Anton heard that sound, that subharmonic rumble that bypassed his ears and resonated in his chest. But now there were multiple sources, creating overlapping patterns. They were communicating, coordinating. "Out the back," Kaidar hissed. "Now!" Sonic was already moving, kicking at the small ventilation window in the rear of the container. It was barely large enough for a man, but terror made them flexible. Sonic went through first, his large frame scraping against the metal, then reached back to pull Anton after him. Anton got his head and shoulders through when he heard Container 4's door explode inward behind them. He didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Kaidar was screaming something in Tatar. Then his voice cut off with a wet sound, and Anton was falling through the window, hitting the ground hard, Sonic dragging him up. They ran. The forest swallowed them in seconds, darkness so complete that Anton couldn't see his own hands. He followed Sonic by sound alone, crashing through underbrush, branches whipping their faces. Behind them, the camp was burning now. Someone had knocked over a lamp, or maybe it was deliberate, fire spreading through the containers, creating enough light to see by. Anton risked one glance back. In the firelight, silhouetted against the flames, he saw them. There were at least a dozen. They moved between the containers with purposeful efficiency, some on 4 legs, some on 2, some transitioning between gaits with fluid ease that defied anatomy. They were different sizes, some massive, bear-sized or larger, others smaller, wolf-sized but wrong, too intelligent in their movements. And in the center of the camp, standing perfectly still while chaos swirled around it, was something that made Anton's mind try to shut down rather than process what he was seeing. It stood upright on 2 legs, easily 9 feet tall. Its body was covered in fur that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating a silhouette that looked cut from the fabric of reality itself. Its arms were too long, hanging past its knees, and they ended in hands, not paws, hands, with too many fingers arranged in that same radial pattern he'd seen in the stamped print. But it was the head that broke something in Anton's brain. It was shaped like a bear's skull, massive and powerful, but the proportions were wrong. The cranium was too large, bulging in a way that suggested space for more brain than any bear needed. And its eyes, those same amber eyes that pulsed with their own light, were positioned more forward than any animal's, giving it binocular vision. Predator's eyes, hunter's eyes. As Anton watched, frozen despite Sanish pulling at his arm, the thing turned its head and looked directly at him. Across 100 meters of burning camp and darkness, it looked at him, and Anton felt that gaze like a physical touch. It opened its mouth, a mouth full of teeth that were too sharp, too many, arranged in rows like a shark, and made a sound. Not a roar, not a growl, a word. One syllable in a language that predated human speech, but that Anton understood anyway. The meaning burning itself directly into his brain. Run, not a threat. Permission. It was giving them a head start, because it wanted to hunt. Anton ran. He ran faster than he'd ever run in his life, Sanic beside him. both of them crashing through the forest in blind terror. Behind them, rising above the sounds of the dying camp, he heard it, a howl of pure predatory joy, taken up by a dozen throats, the pack singing as they began the chase. The hunt was on. They ran until Anton's lungs felt like they were tearing apart, until the taste of blood filled his mouth and his legs turned to lead. Sanich was ahead, crashing through undergrowth with desperate momentum, and Anton followed the sound because in the absolute darkness there was nothing else to follow. Behind them, the howling rose and fell in waves, sometimes close enough that Anton could hear branches snapping, sometimes distant enough to offer cruel hope, but always there, always tracking. His foot caught and he went down hard, face hitting forest floor, mouth filling with rotting leaves and earth. Sanich's hand locked around his jacket and hauled him up. "Get up! Anton, get the fuck up!" They stumbled forward into gray dawn light, and Anton saw something that made his heart stop. Boot prints in the soft earth. Their own tracks from hours ago. They'd been running in a perfect circle. "Oh, Jesus," Sanich breathed. "They were hurting us." Movement exploded from the undergrowth. One of the smaller ones, wolf-sized but built wrong, too heavy in the chest, eyes positioned too far forward with that amber luminescence. Sanich shoved Anton hard, sending him sprawling. "Run," Sanich said quietly, axe raised. His voice was steady, calm. "Anton, run. That's an order, brother." "Sanich, I can't." Two more emerged from the trees, circling. "Run, you stupid fuck!" Sanich roared and swung. "Run!" Anton ran. Behind him, Sanich's voice echoed, not screaming, but roaring defiance. The sound of axe hitting flesh. An animal scream cut short. Then Sanich's voice, weaker. "Come on, who's next?" The voice cut off mid-shout, replaced by sounds Anton's brain refused to process. He kept running because stopping would make Sanich's sacrifice meaningless. The ground disappeared beneath his feet, and he was falling, tumbling down an embankment into shockingly cold water. The current grabbed him, pulled him under, and for a moment, Anton just gave up. Let it take him. But some stubborn spark made him fight. He broke the surface, gasping, let the current carry him until his hand hit a log. He pulled himself to a gravel bar and collapsed, shaking violently. Everyone was dead, and Anton was alone in the deep taiga, soaking wet in October, with things hunting him that shouldn't exist. His hand found the icon in his pocket. St. Nicholas. He pressed it to his forehead. "Please, please let me live. Please don't let Sanich have died for nothing." Movement on the opposite bank made him freeze. 20 meters away, something stood watching him. Upright on two legs, lean and rangy, fur-mottled gray-brown. But those eyes, amber, pulsing with their own light. Anton knelt there, too exhausted to run, too cold to fight, waiting for death. The creature tilted its head, studying him. Its eyes went to the icon in Anton's hand, then back to his face. It made a sound, and impossibly, Anton understood. "You carry the old mark, the scent of the elder." "Why?" Anton's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The creature's head snapped to the side. From the trees, others emerged. 4 of them, gathering at the water's edge, looking at Anton with clinical attention. "The elder does nothing without purpose," the first one said. "You were marked for a reason. You drank from the old spring. When the moon calls full, your body will answer. You will become, or you will die. There is no third path." "No," Anton whispered. "That's impossible. You understand words that are not words. Your senses are already changing. You can smell us, can't you? Hear sounds no human should catch. It was true. Anton could smell them, musk and earth and old blood, could hear their heartbeats, slow and strong. What did you do to me? Not us. The elder. He chose you, saw something worth transforming. The creature paused. Walk downstream, 3 days. You will find a road. Live or die, human. But know this, the forest has claimed part of you. When the moon calls, you will choose. Choose what? Everything. Then they were gone, melting into the forest like smoke. Anton walked for 3 days, followed the stream, drank from it, found pine nuts and bark. At night, he couldn't risk fire, so he wedged himself into hollow trees and tried not to sleep. But when he slept, he dreamed. Not nightmares, worse. He dreamed of running on 4 legs, of hunting, of packmates around him in wordless communion. He would wake with his heart racing and a taste like copper in his mouth. And his senses were changing, sharper. By the 3rd day, he could smell water from 100 meters away. At night, he could see shapes and movement that should have been invisible. On the 4th day, he found the logging road, followed it east until he heard an engine, a truck loaded with timber. The driver took one look at Anton and crossed himself. Jesus Christ, boy, what happened? Anton looked down at himself, clothes shredded, hands covered in cuts. He probably looked like he'd been living in the forest for weeks. The camp at Bailey Yar, animal attack. I'm the only... His legs gave out and the driver caught him. Regional hospital, doctors, nurses, questions. They said he was malnourished, dehydrated, in shock. They pumped him full of IV fluids. Then the investigators came. 2 men in suits with tired eyes. Anton told them everything. The scratching, the methodical hunting, the creatures that spoke without words. They wrote it all down. Then the older one closed his notebook and sighed. Mr. Rosieff, the human mind under extreme stress creates narratives to explain the unexplainable. Here's what we know. Your camp was attacked by animals. Bears, probably wolves. Many men died. You survived through luck. That's not what happened. That's the official report. The kindness left his voice. The report that will allow families to receive benefits. The report you will confirm when asked. Or you can spend the next 6 months in psychiatric evaluation instead of going home to your mother. Anton stared at them. Nobody would believe him. Or worse, they'd believe and bury it anyway. Okay, he whispered. Animal attack. I was lucky. They released him after 10 days. His mother met him at Vladimir Station, wrapped him in her arms, crying. My boy came home. But had he? He moved back into his old room. His mother cooked his favorite foods, and he ate them, even though everything tasted like ash. He found electrician work. The routine was almost normal, except the city felt wrong. Too loud, too bright, too crowded. At night, he could hear sounds only he could hear. Dogs 3 blocks away, mice in walls, his mother's heartbeat in the next room. And the dreams got worse. Every night, running with the pack, hunting, the savage joy of the kill. He would wake soaked in sweat, reminding himself, I'm human, I'm Anton, I'm home. But the reminders were getting harder to believe. He started avoiding mirrors, because sometimes his eyes would flash amber in certain light. The full moon came on a Thursday. Anton went to bed early, hoping sleep would help. Instead, he lay there feeling heat building in his core, spreading to his extremities. The icon was on his nightstand and he grabbed it, pressed it to his chest. Please, please don't let this happen. The moon rose, and Anton's body answered. Pain exploded through him. bones shifting under skin, muscles cramping in waves. He stumbled to the bathroom, collapsed against the sink. His fingernails had darkened, thickened. The bones of his hands looked longer. He looked up at the mirror and saw himself changing. His face was still his face, but wrong. Jaw heavier, eyes full amber now, luminescent, teeth sharp when he opened his mouth. The pain intensified. His spine arched, and something fundamental restructured inside him. His senses exploded outward. He could smell everything, hear everything. In the apartment below, he could hear a man's heartbeat, blood moving through veins. "Pray," something whispered. "Easy, pray." "No!" Anton grabbed the sink, cracking the porcelain. He was still human, still his mother's son. He wouldn't become the thing that killed his friends. But his body didn't care. The transformation continued, pulling him apart and rebuilding him. He could fight it and be destroyed from inside, or surrender, become what the Elder intended. Anton screamed, the sound starting human and sliding into something else, shattering the mirror, setting off car alarms outside. Every dog in the neighborhood began howling. Then he passed out. When he woke at dawn, he was on the bathroom floor, naked, covered in sweat. The mirror was shattered, and on it, written in condensation, "The forest calls home." Anton stared at the words, understanding finally complete. He couldn't stay. Next month it would happen again, stronger, harder to resist. Eventually, he would lose control completely, in a city, surrounded by people. He had to go back to the forest where what he was becoming wouldn't be a danger to innocence. He cleaned up, dressed, and wrote a letter. "Mama, I'm sorry. What happened in the forest changed me. I can't stay. If I stay, I'll hurt someone. Maybe you. I love you. Don't look for me. I'm not coming back. Anton." He left the letter on his pillow, left the icon beside it, and walked out before his mother woke. At the edge of Vladimir, where buildings thinned and forest began, he stood looking back at civilization. Everything he'd known was behind him: his mother, his home, his humanity. Ahead was only wilderness, but deep in his chest, something pulled him forward, calling him home to a place he'd never been but somehow remembered. Anton took a breath and walked into the trees. 6 months later, in the deep forests of Krasnoyarsk, something that had once been Anton Roseyev ran with the pack. He'd found them, or they'd found him. The Elder had been waiting. "Welcome home," the Old One had said, and the words resonated with truth. He learned to shift fully, to hunt, to speak the wordless language. Learned he wasn't the first human marked. Every few generations, the Elder chose one. Bridges between worlds. Warnings, this far and no further. Sometimes Anton still thought in human words, would remember his mother's cooking or Sanich's laugh. But those memories were fading like dreams from another life. Mostly he thought in the pack's way. Scents, sounds, immediate present. He was happy, more complete than he'd ever been human. The loneliness that had haunted him was gone. But on certain nights, when wind carried scents from distant cities, a small part of him would whisper, "I'm sorry, Mama." Then the moon would call again, and that whisper drowned in the pack's howling, in ancient blood, in the wild song of the forest that had finally claimed him. The Bely Yar site was abandoned. Within 3 years, forest reclaimed it entirely. The story became legend. The place workers disappeared. The camp the forest took back. But in remote camps across Siberia, the story had weight. Workers would hear it and remember, would think twice about going too deep, about disrespecting old places. And sometimes men on night shifts would hear howling and feel a chill, would see eyes reflecting floodlights from the tree line, eyes that watched with too much intelligence. Most would finish their rotations and never come back. The smart ones anyway, because the old powers were still there. The pack still ran. The elder still chose, occasionally, to mark someone. And the forest remembered. It always would.